Okay, here we go with our notes on matrices. Matrices is the fourth way of solving a system of equations. And basically what you're going to do is use the calculator totally this time. So it's like you enter the calculator into the calculator as a 2 by 3 matrix. And then very important thing is that the equations must be written in standard form to be able to do this. So here are the steps listed to you that you use in your calculator, and just go over those over and over and over and over to solve them. So I'll go through the steps as I go through number 1. So it's like I'm going to rewrite these in a matrix form by putting them into brackets, and realize this x and this y have 1's in front of them as coefficients. So I'm going to put 1's representing the x's and the y's, and then a 13 here, and for the first row will be my first equation, and the second row will be the second equation, which the x's are the 2, the y, I want to take this sign with the 3, so that means it's a -3, and then the 1 in the last position, so that I have the first column is the x's, second column is the y's, and the last column is the c value, or the constant, out here on the end, and that is the order it must be when you write it to put it into your calculator. Okay, so if I go to the calculator, let me make sure mine is reset so everything is set so that you can actually see it. Okay, so I've got my calculator reset, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these steps on my paper here. It says rewrite the system of the matrix and enter it into your calculator. We're going to hit the second and the x to the -1. So the second button is blue, and then the -1 button, if you look down right here, okay, on my calculator there's an actual button. It's below the math button but above the x squared button, and it has an x to a -1. That's called the inverse button. If I push that button, then this shows up on my screen, and that was A. B says arrow over to the word edit, so I'm going to go to the right to the word edit, and I'm going to enter right there at that point, and I should have this on my screen. And then on C it says enter the dimensions of your matrix, which is a 2 by 3. So it should be blinking on the 1. I'm going to enter a 2, and I'm going to arrow over to the second one and put a 3 and enter, and notice I've got a bunch of zeros now on my screen. So now I'm going to take what I wrote on number 1 and I'm going to enter them into their slots. So it's like the first 0, I'm going to change it to a 1 and enter, another 1 and enter, and then a 13. And as I enter, it's just moving along inside my matrix. If I go to the second one, it'll be a 2, a -3, and a 1, so that I have this matrix that matches the one that I wrote. Okay, then it says we want to clear the screen by hitting second and mode. Alright, second is the blue button again, and mode is right next to it. So it clears my screen. I have nothing on there now. So step 4 says, okay, we're going to go back into the inverse feature. So we're going to go second to the second and then the inverse button. So go back to where we were. And we're going to go to the right to the word math this time. We're not going all the way to edit. We're going to math. And then I want to go to option B, which option B is way down there in the bottom. Right there. Make sure you have B, not A, but B. It must have 2 R's, an E, and an F. So I'm going to enter on that and have this on my screen. So my last step is now to hit second and the inverse again. So I should have this screen. Now it should be sitting on the number 1. I'm just going to enter so that it puts an A right there. Now when I enter, I get this. Okay? So remember, this first column I said was the X's, the second column was the Y's, and then these were my constants. So on the first column, this X column represents my this first column represents my X value. So that means the X is equal to 8. And then this is the Y column, so that means the Y is equal to 5. Okay, for that particular problem, that means my solution is 8, 5. Okay, so on number 2, I'm going to pull out my matrix, The first column, x and y's, all have 1s. So the x is a 1, the y is a 1, and the constant is a 2. On the second row, the x is a 1, the y this time is a negative 1, and the constant is a 6. I'm going to go back to my calculator, clear that, go back into second and inverse. I'm following my steps again on number 2. Go over to edit and enter, but now the matrix is there, so I'm just going to right arrow until I get to the matrix that I'm needing. And now this one I'm going to replace with my new values. So 1, 1, and 2. Then 1, negative 1, and 6. So my matrix now should match the problem number 2. So I'm going to quit. So hit second in mode. Go back into second and matrix, over to math, and then go down to B, where it has the RREF. And then second inverse again, and 1, so that I have the A there, and enter. And then here it has X is a 4, and the Y is a negative 2. So your solution is 4, negative 2. Okay. Alright, so here we go. We're just practicing these steps. On number 3, your first equation has a 9 for the x, a 2 for the y, and a 5 for the constant. The second row, I have a 3 for my x. There's an understood negative 1 for the y, and then there's a negative 10. I'm going to clear this out. Second inverse, over to edit, and then I'm going to go down to my new matrix, and I'm going to enter my values. Okay, make sure they match. Then I'm going to clear this. Oops, get out of that. Go back into matrix, over to math, and go to the option B and enter, and then hit matrix and enter, so that I have the A available. And then here's my solution again. X is negative 1, y is 7. Negative 1, 7 is your solution. Now I didn't write these on the side, so let me transfer them. Okay. Okay, number 4, we can't put it in the calculator yet because right here on that second row, these things are not written in the correct order. It's not written in standard form. So I have to realize that this 4x must be on the left side, which changes from a positive, and when I move it over, it's going to change it to a negative. So this equation here needs to be rewritten as negative 4x plus 1y is equal to negative 11. Once this has changed, then I can do my matrix. The first row is going to be a 2, negative 5, and 19. The second row that I modified will be negative 4, 1, and negative 11. Alright, let's put this in our calculator. Go over to edit, and now in your matrix, type in your new values. Okay. Second mode and second math. Go to option B and then second inverse and enter, and I get my x and my y. X appears to be a 2 and the y appears to be negative 3, so my solution is 2, negative 3. Okay, so look at number 5. Is it written in the correct form? The x's line up, the y's line up, and the constants line up, so yes it is. So the first row will be negative 4, negative 8, and then a 23. The second row will be 1, 2, and 13. Put it into your matrix. Okay. First row will be negative 4, negative 8, and 23. Second row is 1, 2, and 13. Hit second mode to get out of that. Go back into the inverse and down to the option B, and enter the second inverse and enter. Alright, now this one I got a special thing happening. Let me get this in the light a little better. On this one, notice I have a 1, 2, and a 0, and then a 0, 0, 1. Okay, this thing right there is very, very special. Okay, that's a signal to something. Okay, this is your second row notice. Second rows only. Okay, if I have a 0, 0, 1, or I have a 0, 0, 0, that means something special. Okay? Means something very, very special. Let me get that line off my calculator. Okay? When that happens, when I have a 0, 0, 1, that means I have a no solution taking place. Okay? No solution. This is one of those special equations where they never intersect each other. When I have all zeros, that means it's identical, so that means this is an infinite. Infinite many solutions. So this top one, remember, was the 0 with a line through it. This infinity, had that symbol. So we got to watch out for these two. And it should be a signal here, because all of a sudden we have numbers on the top line and not really anything on the bottom. So it should look different. So for this particular problem, this is a no solution. Okay. Alright, number 6. Is it written in the correct form? I say no, because look at this equal sign. The equal signs don't even line up. So this y is on the wrong side of the equal sign. It needs to be going back over to the right hand side, and the equals, basically these things kind of flip-flop places. So if I rewrite this equation, I still have my x. The negative 6y, when it crosses back over, it goes from a negative to a positive, equals, and then there's nothing left over there, so it equals a 0. The bottom one is left okay, so I'm ready to do my matrix now. The first line will be a 1, 6, and a 0. The second line will be 4, 7, and a negative 17. Okay, let me go back, clear that out. Go back into your matrix, and now enter your new equations. Okay, so I have those back in. Remember to hit second mode, go into second inverse, over to math, and go down to the B option, and then second inverse and enter. Okay, so on this one I have an x of negative 6 and a y of a 1, so this has a solution of negative 6 and 1. Okay. Alright, let's go to number 7. Is it written correctly? Well, if I look at it, the x's line up, the y's line up, the equals line up, and the constants line up, so yes, this is okay. So if I pulled off the coefficients and the constants, and now let's put it into our calculator. Be 1 and a 2, then 2, 1, and negative 1. I clear that out, do second inverse, go to math, and then down to letter B, and second inverse enter. I get this, so that I can see that the x was a negative 3 and the y is a 5, so my solution is negative 3, 5. If I look at number 8, is it written okay? The x's line up, the equals line up, but look at my constants and look at my y's. Okay, so the second row, the 3y needs to come over to the left side and the constant needs to go to the right side, so I need to rewrite it and change their signs so that I still have 4x, but the 3y was positive, so when it crosses over it changes to a negative. And then the 42 was a minus, so when it crosses over it changes to a plus. So if I write my matrix, the first row is 8, -6 because of the minus, and then an 84. The second row is a 4, -3, and a 42. Alright, so let's put it into our matrix. So this will be 8, -6, and 84. 4, -3, and 42. Go back to your B option and enter it. And now I have decimals. I got decimals, but look at the second row, 0, 0, 0. When I had 0, 0, 0, that meant that these were identical, and we have infinite number of solutions. So this should be the infinity symbol for this problem. Alright, number 9. Is it written okay? No. The first row, notice the 9 and the constant are on the wrong side, so those have to cross over. The 9 is positive, so when it crosses to the left, it'll be a negative. And when the 7 crosses to the right, it changes also to a negative. Then if I look at the second row, it's not okay either. But the only problem with this one is the y has to cross over. So I still have the x. The 5y is positive, so when it crosses over, it changes to a negative. And then the 3 was negative to start out with. Now I can write my matrix. So the first row is 2, -9, -7. The second row is a 1, -5, and -3. Clear. Alright, I'm going to go into my matrix and enter my values. Okay, got them entered, clear that out, and now let's calculate the solution. And it gives me that my x is an 8 and my y is a -1. So there's my solution, -8, -1. Alright, last one of these before we go into our story problems. I got to look at it, make sure it's in standard form, and what I notice is even though the x's are lined up and it looks like the y's are lined up, notice the equal signs are not lined up, so that means this y needs to go to the other side. So that means this top row, I still have my -5x, but the 9y was positive, and when it moves over the equal sign it changes to a negative, and then I have a -20. That one's written in standard form now, and I have to deal, this one's already okay, so now I'm ready. So I have a -5, -9, -20. Those are all negatives. Second row is a 6, 8, and 24. Oops. Okay, I'm going to enter it into my calculator. So I have it all there. So I'm going to clear that out. Second mode. And now go back and calculate. And there we go. We have our x is a 4. And our y is a 0. So this is actually an x-intercept. And there's your answer. These story problems that you had from the other day can still work with the matrix, so they're going to show you how to do that. If I look at this, it says 2 families go to a hockey team. One family purchases, here we go, 2 adult tickets and 4 youth tickets for a total of $33. Another family purchases, this time 4 adults and 5 youth to equal $51.75. What's the cost of the adult and what's the cost of the youth? So I want to find out what each one of these actually is, so that's solving it. But you should see the matrix inside here, that I have a 2, a 4, and a 33. I have a 4, a 5, and then this. I can put that all in my calculator, that's fine. So I'm going to go back into my matrix. Enter my new values. Okay, do the same thing. Clear that out. Go back into the matrix in math. Do the B option. And grab your matrix, and there's our values. So the first one, which happens to be my A's this time, so the adults cost $7. That's what my values here actually represent. And the second one was the youth, cost $4.75. So over here they have the X, that will be the $7. Their Y value is $4.75. So this is dealing with money. So we have our emphasis. On 12, we're dealing with money. Here's the one that is most missed by students. We have a total of 60 coins, and we're dealing with quarters and dimes. So we have quarters and we have dimes to equal a total of 60. Now this is where they miss things, because now they give me a total dollar amount, that I have a total of $13.35. But what you need to notice is quarters actually has a dollar amount added to it, because how much is a quarter? Well, a quarter is 25 cents. And a dime is 10 cents. So there's the hidden money values that a lot of students will miss when they actually equal to a dollar amount. So if I put my matrix in here, realize these are ones. So I have 1, 1, and 60, and then I have the money. 0.25, 0.10, and then 13.35. I'll put this in my calculator. So I have it there. I'm going to hit calculate. I'm going to hit matrices, go to the math option, and now do the reference of this. The X, the first column says I have 49. So my X is 49, which realize the X was this column, the Y's was this column, so that means my X's were quarters. And then it tells you had 11 of the other ones, so that means you had 11 dimes for your answer. Okay. Alright, 13. It says Jim runs a food cart, and during the busiest outdoor festival he sold a total of this big huge dollar amount, $7,443.75 worth of food. He's selling hot dogs for this price and steak sandwiches for that price. Do 2.59 H's plus 9.95. Oh, I hate to use an S. Yeah, but we got to make it look like an S, I guess. So that'll look kind of weird. To equal 7343.75. So I have the money with the money. This is all dealing with money. The next sentence says if he sold a total of 985 items, so this is where I pull away the number values, because that will actually represent the number of items that he sold. Okay, so I pull away the money, and I'm just left with ones here. This represents my matrix again. Okay, there we go. I wrote it into the matrix. Now I want to put it in my calculator. So clear this out, go back into the matrix, and 2.95, 9.95, 343.75, and then a 1, and a 1, and a 985. Okay. Now realize Up here it looks like it rounded it to 0.8, but realize it's still got the number value here. It's just displaying it slightly different. So that's the same. Alright, so here we go. Go back into your matrix and we're going to reference it. Oops, I forgot to. There we go. Oh, dadgummit. Clear. And go to math and B option. And then get my matrix. There we go. Okay. So the first one we have 351 items. 351. Now that represents the first column, which that's my X's. That means that's my hot dogs. Okay. And then it says we had 634 of the other one. And the other one was the sandwiches, right? The steak sandwiches. And there we go. There's our answer. Do notice the word problems, we're writing them separate and saying what each one is. Whereas just having a system, we write them as coordinates. So do notice the difference here. Alright, 14. The algebra test is worth 100 points total and contains a total of 35 problems. We have multiple choice. Okay, so we have multiple choice questions that are worth 2 points. And then we have word problems that are worth 7 points. Okay, so there's our 2 increments. And this is dealing with points. So I need the points number, which it says 100 points. So that goes with the first equation. The second equation, I pull away the points, and I have an M plus a W equals 35 problems. So I put my ones, and there's my matrix. And there you go. So let's plug it in. Okay, alright, let me get down there. Alright, so here we go. 2, 7, and 100. 1, 1, and 35. I have my new matrix in. I'll clear that. Go to the B option and enter the first one. Tells me I have 29 of my first options and 6 of my second options. So my first options were the M's, which was multiple choice. I'm going to put MC here. And then the second option was word problems. I'm going to put UW here, or UP for word problems. Alright, and last one of these. It says, one day Fred Sports World sold 9 Buffalo Bill jerseys and 3 Miami Dolphins. Alright, so we have 9 B's plus 3 M's, and he sold it for a total of this value. Okay. The next day he sold 12 of the Buffalo Bills, so 12 B's, and only 2 of the Dolphin Miamis. 2, and I put an M there, I guess that was the Miami Dolphins, equals this dollar amount. Okay, and then they want to know how much is each one of the jerseys, so that's what my M and my B actually are. So if I put this into the matrix, it'll be a 9, a 3, and then that large dollar amount. And then I have a 12, a 2, and a bigger dollar amount there. So I want to put these into my matrix. Okay, so I have them entered. Get out of that, go into the B option and make sure I have matrix 1, and there we go. So we have our first answer is 89.95, and that's money. The second one is 29.95, and that is money. So the first one is the B option, which is the Buffalo Bills jersey. And then the $29.95 was the second option, which was the Miami Dolphins. Okay. Alright, that's it for this notes. I hope you saw the easiness of using a calculator if you have a calculator available.